Micah 4:10. My mouse will cooperate. Okay. Be in pain and labor. Well, those go hand in hand. Bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. For now shalt thou go forth out of the city, and thou shalt dwell in the field, and thou shalt go even to Babylon. There thou shalt be delivered. They're going to captivity, and he says, when you get into captivity, then you'll get delivered. Now, I know how we think. Deliver me before I get to captivity. But he says, no, it's my plan for you to get into captivity first. Then I'll deliver you. There shalt thou be delivered. There the Lord shall redeem thee from the hand of thine enemies. He says, in verse 9, he says, now why goest thou cry out loud? Is there no king in thee? And we talked about that last week. The king they chose was Caesar, when they could have had the King of Kings. Man normally does that. In 1 Thessalonians 5:1, he says this, but of the times and seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord, you know what that is, that's second advent, so cometh as a thief in the night. Now just take those two verses. The first verse he says is, the times and the seasons you have no need I write to you. You know that perfectly. So you should know the timing and the seasons. He says, now when I'm talking about the day of the Lord, the second advent, for that one it's going to come as a thief in the night. It's not a reference to the rapture. People want to tell you you can't date the rapture. Nobody's ever gotten it right that's tried. However, I don't see any Bible proof that you can't date it. Go for it. Try it. Everybody who wants to use a verse to say don't date the rapture is a verse that's referring to the advent, not the rapture. Verse 3. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them. As travail, it's always the reference to tribulation is travail. As travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Because they're going to Babylon. They're going into captivity. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that that day should overtake you as a thief in the night. As a thief. So he's saying, you're something different than this woman in travail that I've been speaking about. That's something different. So the church age is a different entity altogether than the connotation of the woman with in travail. Verse 5. Ye are all the children of light and children of the day. We are not of the night nor of darkness. Let us therefore not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. That's a good verse. We should always be watching and being sober. You watch for a million things. Watch for the device the devil's got set up in your path to trap you with. Watch for the opportunities that God's placed in your path that we should take advantage of. Watch, he says, and be sober. Now you'll hear a lot of people want to turn that into be serious. Well, it does mean be serious. You're not going to be watching very vigilantly if you're not serious. However, it also means, the word it said, sober. Don't get drunk. Now, it's the drunk who wants to turn that into, it means serious, it does not mean. Well, why can't it mean both? How many drunks do you know that are serious? Okay, it fits. Back in our text in verse 10, he's talking about Nebuchadnezzar coming in and attacking Jerusalem. And of course, that's a type of what the Antichrist is going to do. He's going to do that. We'll find it in Revelation 11. Revelation 11, verse 1. Revelation 11:1. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod. And the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles. And the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. He's saying Jerusalem's going under. The city's going down. I'm going to save you out of it, but don't lose the fact that y'all messed it up. I'll fix it in the end, but you messed it up. He said in our text, to be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion. In Isaiah 44:22. Isaiah 44:22. Now Israel is going to be in pain. That's the tribulation. They're going to be laboring. And they're going to deliver. And this millennial reign of Christ is the child that Israel finally has, that rules the nations with a rod of iron. Isaiah 44:22. I have blotted out as a thick cloud thy transgressions, and as a cloud thy sins. Return unto me, for I have redeemed thee. Now, that's both past tense and future tense. He has redeemed them, and in the millennium he will redeem them again. When he brought them out of Egypt, he killed their debtor. They owed everybody. Remember, they ran around frantically to the neighbors and said, give me some banjo strings and I need some, whatever it was they needed. Give me all the goods. And they were in debt to the Egyptians. Then God took care of the Egyptians. He bought their debt. Now they're in debt to him. There's a lot of good things that Ramsey says, but there's a lot of things about it that don't make sense if you've got a Bible. God likes people in debt to him, for sure. And he likes you in debt, so you'll cry out to him. So this idea of you can be debt-free is baloney. I've never seen anybody who thought they were debt-free that was debt-free. Do you pay your electric bill before you spend the electricity or after?
After.
That's right. You were on credit. So they're not debt-free there. You better pay it a year in advance. If you want to live debt-free, it's impossible. God doesn't intend you to be debt-free. He intends you to be in debt to him for everything. Verse 23. Sing, O heavens, for the Lord hath done it. Shout, ye lower parts of the earth. What in the world is that? The lower parts of the earth are going to shout? Now, it may mean exactly what it says. The earth itself rings and makes noise, and it may not be audible to us. Maybe in that day it will be. But God can hear it. He tells the trees of the field to clap their hands. He's not telling them something they can't do. He requires that all men everywhere now to repent. He's not telling us to do something we can't do. Okay, so the lower parts of the earth can break forth. Now it could mean something else. It could mean somebody who is in the lower parts of the earth who's actually going to be shouting about this day. Who would that be? Well, I'll tell you how the Old Testament system worked. It worked like this. When a person in the Old Testament died, let's say they were following God and doing correctly, where did they go?
Abraham's bosom.
Abraham's bosom or paradise. That if they were a Jew, they went to Abraham's bosom. If they were a Gentile, they went to paradise. Then at Calvary, Christ went to the lower parts of the earth and he delivered. He set captivity captive. He took them back with him to heaven. Now you find Paul say that he knew a man above 14 years ago, whether in the body or out of the body, I know not. Such a one caught up to paradise. Okay, so it went to heaven at some point, but it didn't stay there, because in Revelation we find there's souls under the altar that are not in heaven. They were beheaded. So the Old Testament system goes back into play. Abraham's bosom and paradise. Now it could be those people that he's saying for them to shout, because the redemption has come. Jesus Christ is about to begin the millennium. That could be. He says, break forth into singing, ye mountains, O forest, every tree therein, for the Lord hath redeemed Jacob and glorified himself in Israel. Look at Isaiah 44:28. Isaiah 44:28. This is a wild one. That saith of Cyrus. That's a Gentile pagan king. He is my shepherd. That's a title given to Jesus Christ. He's the good shepherd. It says, Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and shall perform all my pleasure. Jesus Christ did always those things that pleased the Father. Even saying to Jerusalem, thou shalt be built, and to the temple, thy foundation shall be laid. He's a type. He's a type of when the Jews get back into the land in the millennium. Look at Isaiah 44:21. Remember these, O Jacob and Israel, for thou art my servant. I have formed thee. Thou art my servant, O Israel. Thou shalt not be forgotten of me. What do you do with a servant? You tell the servant to go do your bidding. He does missions for you. It's the same as though you did it when you send out your servant to do something. That's exactly what Israel was intended from the beginning. To be a nation of priests to the world. But they failed. They dropped the ball on that. They're going to pick it back up here. He's going to put them back in charge of sending his message to the nations. Jeremiah 22:23. Jeremiah 22:23. This is a wild verse here. O inhabitant of Lebanon, that makest thy nest in the cedars, how gracious shalt thou be when pangs come upon thee. The pangs as of a woman in travail. So that's going to be a great day. Now, I don't know. I've never been pregnant.
Well, that's good.
I've had three girls, but I've never been pregnant. I would imagine by month 12, you're ready to be delivered of that child. And when the pangs take over, while it might not feel good, the idea is good. This will be over. At some point, this will be done. It's getting close. Now, we see that in our age we're in right now. We see the wickedness seem to abound, and it seems like it's growing leaps and bounds every day. And for us, that tells us something. Our redemption is drawing nigh, and one day we're getting out of here because we know things are ramping up for the Antichrist to show up. So we got to be gone when he gets here. Jeremiah 50, verse 43. Jeremiah 50, verse 43. Babylon is a bad place. The king of Babylon hath heard the report of them, and his hands waxed feeble. Anguish took hold of him, and pangs as of a woman in travail. Now, he's not going to bring forth the man-child. However, he's going to go through the same turmoil and tribulation. Think of it. The tribulation has been the Antichrist doing all he can to destroy God's people, and doing a fairly good job of it. God's going to repay him, he says to his face, and double unto him double. It's going to be even worse for him. God's going to give him right back what he was given the children of Israel. He's going to feel some pangs that he won't get out of. Israel's delivered in two places. In Zion, he talked about being delivered. Look at it in Hosea, your favorite book. Hosea 13:13, your favorite chapter. Hosea 13:13. Hosea 13:13. This is going to talk about the breaking forth of children. That's what the birth is. The water breaks and the child comes forth. Hosea 13:13. Sorrow of a travailing woman shall come upon him. He is an unwise son, for he should not stay long in the place of the breaking forth of children. Okay, the place, that's a reference to Israel, when Israel gives birth to a nation in a day. In Isaiah 66:7, he says this, before she travailed, she brought forth. Before her pain came, she was delivered of a man-child. This is going to be the nation. The place of that birth is, of course, Jerusalem. In the tribulation, it's Jerusalem and Mystery Babylon. Look at it. There's another place that this happens in Revelation 17. In the tribulation, this Babylon is a mystery Babylon, so it does not have to be over there on the Tigris and Euphrates River. It could be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, because it says it's a mystery Babylon. Revelation 17:5, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, an abomination of the earth. I almost hate to read the phrase the Great in connection with that, because there ain't nothing good about it. But the Bible, many times when it uses great, does not refer to it being good. It's quantity, a lot of something. She is a multitude of wickedness. Look at verse 13, Revelation 17:13. About the rulers here. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. This tells you that it's not the Antichrist running the show, and it's not his wicked followers that are, overcome and using their smart brains. God's still directing in the tribulation. You don't get out from under his control, even when it looks like all the wickedness is prevailing. No, it's under his purview. He says right here, they're going to give their strength unto the beast. Verse 14, these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And they that are with him are called, chosen, and they that with him are called and chosen and faithful. Look at verse 18. And the woman which thou sawest is the great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. So it's more than just Mystery Babylon as in spiritual, figurative. There is a specific city associated with it. It's always been, if you have a preference to the readers and in your King James, they lay the Babylon, the harlot, at Rome. They say that's where it is, and more than likely that's true. Look at chapter 18. Chapter 18, verse 2. Chapter 8, Revelation 18:2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and become the habitation of devils, and the hole of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. He says, I'm going to dump them all in one spot. That's good. We do the same thing. Australia, the reason Australia is there is because they had a bunch of convicts in England they wanted to get rid of. They dumped them off on an island. That's why we have California. Right. Revelation 18:4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, that you receive not of her plagues. You'll find people who want to claim anything. That's not COVID. And that's not what he's talking about. Well, he's talking about the plagues. He's talking about something that is akin to what was going on when Moses was stretching out his hand and causing plagues in Egypt. Something grievous that is a real deal, not a COVID deal. It won't be a news media run program. He says, verse 5, For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. You find that a couple of places, where it's almost like God says, I've been ignoring this for a while. Oh yeah, I remember, I got to get that taken care of. That's what men do with the to-do list. We'll do a little bit of it and whatever, and then it sits on the shelf, and then we'll finally have a minute, and if we get bored for half a minute, then our mind will revert back to, oh yeah, there was something I was doing the other day. That's almost the feeling you get here. God says, oh yeah, let's finish that project up. And then he remembers their iniquity. Verse 6, reward her even as she rewarded you. Double unto her double, according to her works. And the cup which she hath filled, filled to her double. So with all the trouble and the strife and tribulation that the Antichrist has caused on the children of Israel, God says, I'm going to repay him and them double. That's some serious pain they're going to go through. And it's going to go down quick. Look at it in Revelation 18:10. Standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, the mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. She's going down quick. He's pouring on the steam, and he's pouring it on hot and heavy. 3 times in that passage he's going to tell you it's going to happen in 1 hour. He's going to deliver them in more than physical ways. He's going to deliver them in political ways and in spiritual means. Get in Romans 11:25. Romans 11:25. This is a complete deliverance he gives them. Never before have they had this type of a deliverance. Romans 11:25. For I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. And so all Israel shall be saved. As it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and he shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. For this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins. Now that's as spiritual as you can get. As concerning the gospel, they are enemies for your sakes, but as touching the election, they are beloved for the Father's sake. They got a mission to do. They got a government to run and a world. Micah 4 verse 11. Micah 4 verse 11. We've seen the tribulation and where deliverance is going to come from, and it's going to be after a bad time. Micah 4 verse 11. Now also many nations are gathered against thee. Now that's always been in Israel. Anytime you lived in Israel, that could be true. Many nations were gathered against them. Let her be defiled, and let her eye look upon Zion. Whew. The wicked love to conquer innocence and purity. That's the devil in them wanting to do that. It's not out of a love of admiration, but out of a sense of satanic destruction. When they see something pure, they have to contaminate it. Misery loves company, they say. Why else would the devil have shown up in the garden? He was already condemned. They were doing just fine. Leave them alone. No. You know, if I'm in a bad spot, let me make somebody else's spot worse and I'll feel better. Obadiah 1 verse 12. Obadiah 1:12. All these nations are gathered against Israel. They always have been, and they always will until the end. What they do when they gather against them, because they don't even realize probably what they're doing, it's satanic. The devil's against that nation. He wants to wipe them out and always has wanted to. They're looking at them and they're laughing and pointing and jeering, and God says that all adds up to something. Obadiah 1 verse 12. But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother, in the day that he became a stranger, that is, going to captivity. Neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. Neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress. Don't get excited about even the wicked going down. That's a satanic thing. You don't point and laugh and jeer even when the wicked get their due. That should be foreign to a Christian. Job 31. Job 31, verse 28. This also were an iniquity to be punished by the judge. Whew! Oh, fun time's coming. He said, here's something that the judge ought to levy a heavy persecution against. Punishment. This also were an iniquity to be punished by the judge. For if I should deny the Lord, for if I have denied the God that is above, well, we got a bunch of people in America that deserve this punishment by the judge. They've denied God above. If I rejoice at the destruction of him that hated me. Ooh. He says right there, if I got excited when my enemy went down, I should be judged. Woo. Or lifted up myself when evil found him. Neither have I suffered my mouth to sin by wishing a curse to his soul. Now, these are some of these tough verses, and for us, we take spiritual applications from them, and your salvation is obviously not connected to it. There's coming a day it will. In the tribulation, they're going to have to abide by all these things. They're going back under the law and faith. Look at it in Proverbs 17. Proverbs 17, verse 5. Now, I know a lot of people say that doesn't apply to me, doctrinally. If you can get away with that, go for it. I don't think God will let you slide by. If they're supposed to do it, and we're under grace, we ought to be able to do it. Proverbs 17, verse 5. Whoso mocketh the poor reproacheth his maker, and he that is glad at calamities shall not be unpunished. Ooh. I don't care how spiritual a preacher it is, if he gets up and he's excited about any nation or wicked group going down, you better look out. God doesn't like that. Look at it in Proverbs 24:17. Proverbs 24, verse 17. Rejoice not when thine enemy falleth. Now, the next phrase, it says this, and the next word, let not. You know what let not means? It means it's going to be hard. It's going to be something you have to force yourself to do. Like Jesus shows up, says, let not your heart be troubled. Well, that means your heart's going to be troubled. Don't let it. So here he's saying, let not thine heart be glad when he stumbleth. When the wicked goes down, don't get excited about it. Like Amy would say, slow your roll. Proverbs 24, look at verse 18. Lest the Lord see it, and it displease him, and he turn away his wrath from him. So it looks like God says, okay, if you want to get in on it, then I'll step back and you handle it. I'd rather let God do it all. Lamentations 4, verse 21. Lamentations 4, verse 21. This was what we read about in Obadiah, same situation here. Lamentations 4:21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken, and shalt make thyself naked. They were laughing at Israel, pointing and jeering. God says it's coming back to you. 22. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. They were pointing and laughing at Israel and making fun of Israel going into captivity. God says, okay, we're going to flip the table now. I'm going to laugh at you. Ezekiel 25, verse 6. Ezekiel 25, verse 6. For thus saith the Lord God, because thou hast clapped thine hands, and stomped with the feet, and rejoiced in heart with all thy despite against the land of Israel. This is a good reason to become a Stoic. He said, you've exhibited your emotions. Let me exhibit some. Verse 7. Behold, therefore, I will stretch out mine hand upon thee, and will deliver thee for the spoil to the heathen. And I will cut thee off from the people, and I will cast thee to perish out of the countries. I will destroy thee, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord. That is, I'm the only one who gets to get excited and happy about destruction, not you. We can't do it with a pure motive. I know we feel like we can, but somewhere down in there it turns fleshly real quick. So we better just leave it up to him to do. He can do it righteously. Ezekiel 35, verse 15. Ezekiel 35:15. I've given you a bunch of cross references on this subject, but by no means a definitive list of them. As you go through your Bible, they'll start clicking and you can add to the list. He says, as thou didst rejoice at the inheritance of the house of Israel because it was desolate, so will I do unto thee. Thou shalt be desolate, O mountains, O Mount Seir, that's Edom, and all Edomia, even all of it. And they shall know that I am the Lord. He says, all of you people who've had any bad attitudes and jeering and laughing and pointing at my people when they deserved destruction and I gave it to them. Now think about it. God is the one who instituted their destruction, their punishment. They deserved it. However, what he didn't want was somebody else laughing and pointing at them. Now, we think of that. If you put yourself, flip spots on that, and you'll understand it. Let's say you got 3 girls. And one of them needs a good spanking. Probably all 4 of them. No.
Nice.
No, you're punishing one. You do not want the others to join in laughing and jeering. Then your anger switches, doesn't it? That's the same way God is. He says, I'm taking care of my people. I don't want you involved in it. You stay out of it. Or I'll come after you too. And that's all the way through the Bible. And that's one of the great things about Israel, is we know the mess they're going to go through in the tribulation, every nation, every man's going to be against them. That in and of itself works out for their salvation. Jesus Christ comes back and he's going to repay them. He says double. Look at, what time is it? What time we start tonight? 6:30? We can do one more maybe. Micah 4 verse 12. Micah 4:12. But they know not the thought of the Lord. That's the problem. He said in Hosea, the people were destroyed for lack of knowledge. Neither understand they his counsel. That's true in America right now. People don't understand the great counselor. They're running to little men who put a title on their wall that says counselor, but it means nothing to God. He's the great counselor. He says, for he shall gather them as the sheaves into the floor. He's getting ready to beat them up and find out if there's anything in there worth saving. That's what he does in the tribulation. Isaiah 55 verse 8. It said there that the people don't understand God. They don't know his thoughts. They don't understand his counsel. That's true in our day and age. That's true in most churches. Go in, ask them a Bible question, see what you get. They don't understand it. Beyond that, they don't care. It's one thing to not understand something and then go search for it. But I don't understand. There's lots of things I don't understand. But that I ain't going to be content with that. Figure it out. Isaiah 55 verse 8. For my thoughts are not your thoughts. In case you didn't know that. Neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. That's why we got to always check in. God, what are you wanting me to do here? This just makes sense. Is that what you think makes sense? Because what makes sense to him and what makes sense to man many times are vastly different. Matthew 13:30. He's giving a parable here. Got a crop growing up, and lo and behold, you got some Johnson grass right in the middle of it. The worker comes in and says, what are we going to do about it? Matthew 13:30. Here's the answer. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them. But gather the wheat into my barn. That's what God's going to do. First gathering is going to be of the nations. He says it's his determinations to gather the nations together. He's going to put them all in one spot so he can stomp on them. So I'm going to get them all up. I'm going to arrange it so they're just the size of my foot, and I'm going to step right down on them and squish them all at once. Matthew 13, verse 42. And shall cast them into a furnace, and there shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. That's exactly what he's going to do in the tribulation. He's going to destroy all of his adversaries, and they're going to hell. That's not cursing, that's a fact. That's where they're going. 2 Thessalonians 1 verse 8. This is who God is. In flaming fire, taking vengeance on them that know not God, and that obey not the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. We got a whole generation of people coming up that do not know God. You know what happens with that? When you don't know God, he doesn't say, okay, you didn't know, I'll move along. No, he takes vengeance on that. Whew. He doesn't give excuses, especially not to America. We've got 1 million devices. Everybody's got 4 or 5 screens at their fingertips. And on every one of those, you can get a Bible. Doesn't mean you do. It means you can. And so the possibility was there. If they were ignorant, they chose to be. Isaiah 28, verse 23. Isaiah 28:23. Give ye ear, and hear my voice. Hearken, and hear my speech. Doth the plowman plow all day to sow? Doth he open and break the clods of ground? When he hath made plain the face thereof, doth he not cast abroad the fitches, and scatter the cumin, and cast in the principal wheat, and appoint the barley and rye in their place? Going to be no different with God. He's going to plant his nation. He says he's going to sow them in the earth. Well, he's not going to do any sowing with the nation of Israel until he's tore up the ground pretty good. He's going to plow it up. The Antichrist and all of his nations that join his confederation are going to be plowed up and destroyed. Verse 26. For his God doth instruct him to discern, and he doth teach him. For the fitches are not threshed in the threshing instrument. You're not going to take the clods of dirt up there to the threshing floor and try to get wheat out of it. No, you're breaking that up. Neither is the cartwheel turned about upon the coming, but the fitches are beaten out with a staff. That's what he's going to do. He's coming back with a rod of iron, and the coming with a rod. Bread corn is bruised, because he will not even thresh it, nor break it when the wheel of his cart is with the wheel of his cart, nor bruise it with his horsemen. This also cometh forth from the Lord of hosts, which is wonderful in counsel and excellent in working. That is, man understands some things on how to do his job, how to get by in this world. He says, I've done some things in this world that you do as a job on a daily basis, and you understand this is the way it's supposed to be done. Trial and error, experience, all of those things have taught you. He says, don't you think that I'm going to do the same? And he is. He's going to thresh in the tribulation period until he gets a small remnant of wheat out of it. And that's all of Israel that's going to be saved. We had Daniel 2 verse 35. Daniel 2 verse 35. This, if you reach in your pocket and pull out what are supposed to be coins of money, this is the way you'll feel with this verse. Daniel 2 verse 35. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floor. Now, I'm just making an analogy here. This is the way our money has gone. The value is dropping and dropping and dropping. I was just telling Mike about something I heard, that Brazil has decided, they're buddies with China. And they're no longer going to do their governmental trade deals in U.S. currency. They're going to use the yen. Well, other than just getting in bed with the Antichrist as fast as you can, it's also designed to inflict some kind of punishment on America. We say bad things about America because we can see it and we're here. But of the nations of the world, you won't find more righteous people per capita than in America. So you can count on it, the devil's against this nation. And he's going after them hard. Look at the generation that's coming up. Matthew 21, verse 44. Matthew 21, 44. He says, and whosoever shall fall on this stone shall be broken. That's what you want. That's what they do with the wheat. They break it and they get the kernel out. This is not what you want to do with wheat. You don't want to grind it to powder. He says, but on whomsoever it shall fall, it will grind him to powder. Some of them in the tribulation are going to be ground to powder. Some of them are going to go through a cracking experience. They're going to feel like they're cracking up, not in a funny way. And he's going to harvest the wheat from those. Joel chapter 3. Man, how much more of this we got? Joel chapter 3. Joel 3 verse 1. Now I'll save y'all some time. Start at verse 2. I will also gather all nations, and will bring them down unto the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will plead with them there for my people. You know how he's going to plead with them? Yeah, with a sharp two-edged sword that proceeds out of his mouth. Plead for my people, and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations, and parted my land. He said, they've been doing wrong to me, and I'm going to plead with them. Plead this end off here and plead that one off there. Verse 3. And they have cast lots for my people. They have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine, that they may drink. Now he's delving into the day-to-day wickedness of the average man. He says this alcohol business, alcohol creates an environment where your brain doesn't work. The people start doing things they would never do when they were sober. It gives the devil an in. It opens the door wide open for him to suggest, why don't you try this? Why don't you do some of this? And the reasoning ability is not there. Verse 4. Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Sidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? And if you recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head? Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. God saying, you took advantage of my stuff. Now, we would feel the same way. Let's say somebody walks by and takes something out of your garage. Are you going to go say, oh, well, okay, let's just let that slide? No, we're not. Now, we covered it this morning. What God does with a thief is very cut and dry and very drastic. He always handles a thief in the extreme, because the thief has already shown he has no reasoning ability. He has to make an impression on him. So God says, I'm going to do the same thing with people. They've been doing this with my stuff, my resources. Verse 6, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians, that you might remove them far from their border. Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head. Ooh. And I will sell your sons and your daughters. He's just been recompensed. Why has he gone this next step? Because that's what you do to a thief. I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabaeans, to a people far off from the Lord, for the Lord hath spoken it. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your... Look at this. People don't know this verse is in here. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. That ought to be on the UN. That's the next thing coming. Let the weak say, I am strong. That is, let's see how tough you are. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen. Gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause my mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be awakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. For there I will sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put you in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come get you down, for the press is full of wine fats. The wine fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. God says, I'm getting them all together in one spot, and I'm going to just take care of business all at once. And he's going to. All right, we'll pick up at Micah 4:13 next week. Micah 4:13. In 4:13, we have a happy note. So maybe we can stay there for 2 or 3 minutes. Micah 4:13, Israel's back on top.